$2 billion. That's how much money the state of Ohio overpaid in unemployment benefits during the pandemic. And now many are worried they'll have to pay back money they were paid, even though it wasn't their fault. Good evening, and thanks for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Yolanda Harris.
And I'm Andrew Kinsey. So what went wrong here? Our 10 Investigates team has been looking into this. Chief investigative reporter Bennett Haverly reveals what we found.
And it has been just a frustrating experience.
Sean and Karen Kessler's past year is a tale of misfortune. They're standing next to their roommate's car. Theirs was repossessed. They're behind on rent. Credit cards maxed out. Sean is working, but they're fighting with the state over 4 weeks of unemployment benefits for the 2 times Sean was out of work when they got COVID twice. Once last May and again in January.
And we're caught in the middle, and neither side is fixing it. And it's been a year.
Records the Kesslers provided us show they did receive some benefits, but the state claims the Kesslers were also overpaid more than $1,500.
Our system is built for annual rainfall, and this was really a 500-year flood.
This week, the interim director of the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, Matt Damschroeder, reiterated what we already knew, that Ohio was overwhelmed last spring with a wave of unemployment claims that flooded the system. What is new is that in the year that followed, Ohio overpaid $2.1 billion worth of unemployment benefits. About a quarter of that, Damschroeder says, was lost to fraud. The majority came in the form of non-fraudulent overpayments, money that the state could ask people like Karen and Sean to pay back.
I worry where our next meal is coming from sometimes. I worry how I'm going to pay my electric bill. You know, that's what keeps me up at night.
It's also possible ODJFS could let them keep the money, but right now, Ohio's plan is unclear.
As hard as it is to hear, the best thing I can say is hold tight. We are working on the policy.
Before we get into what went wrong, it's important to remind you that there are 2 tracks of unemployment. There's traditional unemployment insurance, and then there's pandemic, or PUA, the latter of which was created by the federal government in wake of COVID for people who wouldn't normally qualify for jobless benefits. There were problems in both, made worse by the urgent need to get the money out quickly and by Ohio's antiquated computer system that was both crippled and exploited by a wave of jobless claims, both legitimate and fraudulent.
For many Ohioans, the system has frankly failed.
Representative Mark Frazier is co-chair of the Unemployment Improvement Council, a bipartisan group of state lawmakers tasked with taking a look at what went wrong in Ohio's unemployment system and examining ways to fix it. Ohio's antiquated computer system is not currently cloud-based, and a Minnesota company hired years ago to modernize it isn't expected to complete the project until the end of 2022.
From what I see is the new system wasn't built in the 2 to 3 years that needed to be there to support the pandemic. The system continues to not be available.
Frazier's group of lawmakers has a report due out in August, which in part will rely on the findings of State Auditor Keith Faber. Further complicating this issue is the fact that Faber says ODJFS wasn't fully transparent with his auditors last year about the fact that they knew there was widespread fraud within the unemployment system last summer.
We started asking the question, as we do in every audit, are you aware of any fraud concerns? Are you aware of any vulnerabilities in your system from a control standpoint? And the answer we got essentially was no, we've had some relatively minor, regular type of fraud. It's in the tens of thousands.
But in February of this year, after Faber's audit was complete, ODJFS's then director, Kim Henderson, told state lawmakers this.
High degree of fraud was first recognized in the PUA system in early July. By July, that's when the alarm bells really started ringing.
That admission, Faber says, prompted his office to start a new separate audit, specifically looking into fraud.
They weren't disclosing what they had a duty to disclose and answering our questions.
Henderson's statements in February came roughly 2 weeks before she announced she was leaving her position.
It's truly been an honor to serve on your cabinet.
This week, I attempted to ask her about the decision to step away. Through a Facebook message, she said she did not want to be interviewed and referred me to a spokesman who said it was Henderson's decision to leave the department. Fixing these issues now falls to the shoulders of the state and ODJFS, along with interim director Matt Damschroeder.
The most important thing that the agency can do right now to establish confidence on the part of claimants is to make sure that legitimate claims are paid as quickly as possible.
More work to do, he says, and more people like Karen and Sean are left wondering what they'll do as their fight over benefits drags on.
But it should have been taken care of a long time ago.
The auditor says he's encouraged by the increased transparency and cooperation with ODJFS. The interim director here says right now there is no policy in place to deal with the overpayments, and they're working with federal law enforcement to address the millions lost to fraud. Bennett Haberly, 10 Investigates.
Now, if you have something you would like for our 10 Investigates team to look into, you can email Bennett and the team at 10investigates@10tv.com.